I was building with a brother at the Homeschool Expo earlier this year, 2015. And, we were talking about the richness that exists in the mythology that comes out of ancient Africa. How the different netters or deities and the stories around them can be applied to multifaceted, multidimensional, many different aspects and areas of life. It's really interesting and fascinating. So when you're having a conversation about African STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, you have a variety of ancient African deities or netters that you can discuss for a variety of topics. The deity or the netter Jehuti becomes relevant in the conversation about mathematics. The netter Heru becomes relevant in a conversation about aeronautics and aeronautical engineering. The deity Re becomes relevant in a conversation about thermodynamics. The netter Khnum becomes relevant in a conversation about robotics. The netter, even the netter Anubis or Anpu becomes relevant in the conversation about robotics in his role in the opening of the mouth ceremony. And the netter or the deity Asar is relevant when you're discussing the science of agriculture because, two of the tools that he holds crossed on his chest, the crook and the flail, were agricultural tools. But it's funny because those same groups of netter that I just mentioned, their attributes are relevant or can be seen in the movie Straight Outta Compton. And so, I wanted to just take a break from the science, technology, engineering, and math discussion to show how this African mythology shows up in other arenas. So when we look at the different characters in the movie Straight Outta Compton, we have Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, Icecube, MC Ren, and DJ Yella, right? So with Eazy-E, I liken Eazy-E to the netter Asar in terms of what occurred in his story, right? Eazy-E, one of the most famous pictures of Eazy-E is with him with the two guns crossed over his chest. One of the famous depictions of Asar is with him with the crook and the flail crossed over his chest. Of course, the crook and the flail were agricultural tools, but as I discussed in the book Khnum Patata Computer, those same agricultural tools in times of war can be used as weapons. So, two guns crossed over your chest or a crook and the flail crossed over your chest, in both instances can be seen as two weapons crossed over your chest, right? Then out of all the members in N.W.A, Eazy-E is the one who died, right? Asar is the netter who died and was resurrected in the underworld. And Eazy-E was resurrected this year with this movie. This is the first time people have been talking about and thinking about Eazy-E with as much vigor as they have since he's died. It is said that Eazy-E died because of his sexual activity, because his sexual activity is said to have led to him catching AIDS. And it was Asar's sexual activity that led to his death, right? One of the stories about Asar was that, Asar was promised to his sister Aset, and then Nebhet was promised to her brother Satuk. But because Aset and Nebhet looked so much alike that Asar actually mistaken Nebhet for Aset one day, and he had sex with Nebhet. And then when Satuk found out that Asar had sex with Nebhet, he became jealous and he set out to kill Asar. So in that regard, there's a similarity between Asar and Eazy-E in terms of them both dying because of some sort of sexual activity. Let's move on. Ice Cube in the movie Straight Outta Compton, Ice Cube is much like Jehuti, right? Ice Cube was always seen as a writer with a pen and a pad in his hand, and Ice Cube was a mathematician, right? He left the group because the numbers weren't right. His money wasn't right. He was doing the math and it didn't add up, so he left the group. So Ice Cube in many regards is, similar to the netter Jehuti in terms of being a writer and a mathematician. Now the other writer of the group was MC Ren, right? And so If you look at the famous depiction of the weighing of the scales from the Papyrus of Ani, there is Jehuti standing there writing. There's Asar in the back, and then there is the dog-headed deity Anubis, leading the listener in. So the other important writer, or the other important figure, was Anubis. So in that regard, I liken MC Ren to Anubis. Anubis was, when the opening of the mouth ceremony was conducted, that adze, that tool that they used, that is shaped like the Big Dipper, that they used to open the mouth. The priest who was supposed to use that adze to open the mouth was supposed to wear the mask of Anubis. So Anubis was supposed to be the opener of the mouth. So you have a writer in the form of Jehuti, and then you have the person who's opening the mouth. You open your mouth to speak words that are written in the form of Anubis. So in that regard, MC Ren is like Anubis. Dr. Dre and DJ Yella. So Dre is D-Ray, right? So Ray is the sun god, and Yella is the sun. The sun is yellow, right? So Dr. Dre and DJ Yella were responsible for making the beat, making the frequency in terms of sound, and the sun provides us frequencies in the form of light. More specifically, I liken Dr. Dre to Heru, because there's a scene in the movie where Dr. Dre is dressed in all black. When Dr. Dre is confronting Suge Knight was always symbolized in red. Dr. Dre was always symbolized in black, right? So the red versus the black, that is the black land, Kemet, versus the red land, the desert, Heru versus Satuk. So in that regard, I liken Dr. Dre to Heru because he went up against the Satuk of the movie, who was Suge Knight. And then when we talk about rolling down the street in the 6'4" Impala, the Impala is a creature that is in the same family as sheeps and goats and rams, you know what I mean? And so the deity Khnum was depicted with the head of a goat or a ram, or the Impala. So Khnum was the Impala. And in that same regard, even the deity Ray is sometimes depicted with that same head of the goat or the ram, and he's depicted on his boat sailing down the Nile as an impala, sailing down the Nile in my reed boat. So it's just interesting, how those different coincidences lined up, or those different synchronicities lined up, and it just shows the richness of our ancient African mythology, how it can not only be applied to science, but it can also be applied to entertainment.